And it looks like we're live. Hello, everyone. It's Josh here at Red Fury Books. I'm really excited to talk about a great book that I read last month, The Blackest Heart. I'm here with Usman from Bards and Books. I'm here with John at Talking Story. Smaller panel today. We'll talk about that as we get into talking about the book. But really excited to talk about this, but a little caveat, I'm very jet lagged. So if I start talking about like Gimli and some other characters that are in some other book, just interrupt me and we'll go from there. But I'm really excited to talk about this book. This is the second book in the Five Warrior Angels trilogy, and I think was a step up. So what I'd like to do is just kind of talk, just the three of us, initially, just very brief spoiler-free section, because most people that are probably watching this, they're probably they want a summation to know whether or not they should continue the series. But most of the people that will watch this are probably people who have read the book that want to talk about all the great things in here, the characters, the misdirection, all of the things that we're wondering about. So let's just go around. I'll start just briefly and say that I think The Blackest Heart was a step up from the Lonesome Crown, from the Forgetting Moon. See, I'm forgetting names already. It was, and I liked Forgetting Moon quite a bit, but I thought especially once we got at least about halfway through, I thought the plotting was a lot better. I liked the diversity of the POV characters. I loved seeing how the storylines that were kind of far flung, even if a lot of them were on the same continent, are starting to interweave. I also felt that Durfee did a better job at exposition dumps in this book, because I didn't feel like there were any, but we learned a lot about the history and of the characters and the world and everything. I enjoyed a lot of the new characters, and just once I got rolling into this one, man, I really, really enjoyed it. So that's kind of my spoiler-free summation. So Usman, what are your thoughts on The Blackest Heart?
Might have a little bit of unpopular opinions here, but you know what? Overall, I'd have to say it was on basically the same level as The Forgetting Moon. It was quite a bit longer, I think 200 or so pages more, but it was a lot more descriptive. I found this one. I don't know if it was the descriptive, like travel scenes or getting to places. It was a little slow going at times, but at the same time, I found that those moments, that kind of writing style really worked for like impactful moments, like deaths and stuff. So
True.
Yeah. No, same overall, just as good as The Forgetting Moon for me.
Cool. John.
I look, I got to go a step up for two words alone: beer mug. And no spoilers, but I'm just the bestest boy in the world, and so for me it was a step up. I thought it was a step up. I thought, I felt, and I can't really put my finger on why, maybe necessarily, but I felt he had a bit of a confidence about him as a writer, as an artist. I felt like this sophomore work was just a little bit, I thought he distanced himself a little bit away from some of the more comfortable tropes that he was putting some top spin on from the first book, and kind of going out on his own territory, doing some things of his own. I truly enjoyed it. I thought he tortured us, and we can get into why down the road. But some of it I found torturous in actually a fun way. The only thing I could possibly say is I had a little bit of a pace issue, and I'm not saying because it was dragging. I mean, I try and shoot for 100 pages a day, and I never had a problem when I was reading this. I mean, sometimes it'd be like, oh, wow, that's 100 pages, like that flew by. But I would love to ask the man, I really think he had 5 books to tell this story, because there were times when I was like, okay, we should be maybe narrowing down. We should be getting into the shoot here for a trilogy. And I just think he thought he had more time. And I think for me that the pace was a little off for a trilogy in that respect. But I really had a ball. I think he was a little bit more confident, and I think he struck out on some of his own territory, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, and I think Usman, the one thing I definitely agree with is there were times, especially early in the book, where I was at one kind of point of view group of characters that I wasn't nearly as interested in as later in the book, because they got interesting. Basically the 9 companions. That's spoiler free. You know, that storyline started off great, and then it kind of was a little dull, and then it got really good towards the end. So I definitely agree with that. Yeah, I wonder, because this one was about 200 pages more, and I think the last book is the largest one.
Yeah. I think the last one is like another 150, 200 pages longer, I think
so. So I think, you know, like Brian said in the chat there, he did originally want to do 5 books, but he had a 3-book contract, and he didn't want to risk his entire work not getting published. So
right.
I understand him wanting to do that. But I do wonder at times, in just simply holding these huge books that are so heavy to hold, whether or not it might have, in the 5 books, you know, his original vision felt a little different.
Yeah. I think it would have. I mean, I think it would have definitely felt different if he'd have got the 5 books. And I wonder, I would love to ask him too. Like, I would love for him to get in his car and drive to where he has good internet, or, you know, whatever, so we could ask him. But if he's working, I just find myself asking myself over and over again, like, is he writing on anything currently? It just seems weird that he's did this massive trilogy and then there's been nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say. I mean, you see a lot of published authors have trouble getting that next thing published if things don't sell. And I was on a live stream with another author that was published by Tor, and he said even when you're published by a big name,
Yeah.
you know, they only market certain people, and there's even some self-pub authors are outselling traditional pub authors because they don't have the publishing arm, but they don't have the marketing arm. So
right.
That may be part of it. So, well, as we get into spoilers, I do want to address a couple things here. So first of all, let me scroll up. Hey, Burt. Burt is not on the screen with us today.
We miss you, Burt.
We miss you, Burt.
We miss you, Matt.
As well as Matt. Same thing. Both of them are not on the screen because they tapped out. And one of the reasons that they dropped out of the series was specifically some of the darker elements of the series. So let's just say if you're watching this, we're in full spoiler mode. So I want to talk about that, you know, with our panel here. And anyone else in the chat, please chime in. You know, I know a lot of you have read this. Let's talk about those darker elements about this book that would cause maybe somebody to not necessarily want to continue.
Well, I mean, it's like we were talking about earlier. It's definitely got more Ava Shea. We're in spoilers now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I got a lot more Ava Shea chapters, and I mean, if you read book 1, you know what she's been going through, and it's like, you know, doubly so here. So go through that a lot. There's a lot of, you know, pillaging and that kind of stuff, but I found that I could kind of see it because it's more so with like young children and babies, a lot of that too. So that could really be off-putting for many people. So I understand that.
Did Arrows kill the baby in this book, or was that in the first book?
No, it was this one.
I think it was this one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a hard scene.
And Ava saw it. Ava stumbled onto it at the river's edge and saw it. Yeah. Yeah.
And just a lot of, you know, a big emphasis on, well, we had that in the first one too, but a big emphasis on trauma, mental health trauma, just people dealing with that. It was a super dark book. And I mean, it's called The Blackest Heart, not just because of the weapons, right? It's pretty dark.
Yeah. And look, to bounce off of that, you know, I don't know what that dividing line, like, I know we were talking about Forgetting Moon last time when we were all together, and there were some folks in the chat saying, well, it's not grimdark, it's dark epic fantasy. It's like, man, I don't know. This is it's pretty dark. I mean, it's especially when you get to violence against the weaker,
Yeah.
it's tough, especially when children and that I totally get it. Some people this have a hard time. I totally get it. I really do. But it's like it shows the brutality of war. It shows the brutality of war of that time in an unflinching manner. And I would expect, from Forgetting Moon and the way this started, I would expect absolutely nothing less than that. He's not going to, he's going to assault you with what is happening in this holy war cleansing that's just rolling down. It's just encroaching closer and closer and closer, and he just ratchets up the tension by that, and he ratchets up the brutality the closer it gets. So I can totally understand.
Yeah, I think so as well. And we talked right before we came and hit the live button about, even though Ava's continually been, sexually assaulted, every night by arrows, we kind of saw what it's turned her into.
Yes.
And for me, that's just as heinous as
Yes.
the actual assault that she is enduring. Just
Yes.
seeing that it's just turning her into just a shell of a human being. And that definitely is pretty dark, when you think about just the aftershock of that.
Yeah.
I do think, and maybe part of why I felt him to be more of a confident writer is he does dwell a bit more in the emotionality of these moments than I felt he did in Forgetting Moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like even some of the really, truly darker moments of Forgetting Moon that will, live with me forever. Like when he had the son cut all the appendages off, Genko, and tar it. And we had a brief moment of the son doing that, but we didn't dwell. Ava Shea, we truly spend a lot of time in her emotional landscape of what this is doing to her and how it's affecting her and how it's affecting how she sees other people and the world she's living in. He spends quite a bit more time in that emotional landscape, and I think it's well earned. And I think I felt it was a bit more of a confident writer doing it, to not just live in the physical elements of it, but the emotional and motivational landscapes of the characters as well.
I think that's really well said, John, because I do think that's, for me, that's anytime you get in a character's head, for me, that's when you connect, disconnect, feel whatever they're feeling. And you truly, through these characters, you can truly see just the horrific nature of what's going on. And what's interesting too, though, is some of the non-POV characters that are doing heinous stuff. What is going on in their heads, because we don't always get that. You know, like I just forgot her name. Spade, is that the crazy warrior woman that?
Yeah, Anna
like
Spade.
Literally,
Anna Spade
ripped the guy's finger off.
Yeah, like just backwards, it just keeps going. Like
I know, obviously she's a psychopath, but it would be interesting just to see a POV from a character like that, because we really haven't had that. We've had some of the, morally ambiguous characters, but most of the characters that we've gotten haven't been of that ilk. So it would be interesting to see some of these truly heinous characters from a point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I would. We get just the very slightest quick hint of a backstory for her. And I, it's interesting to me that the person that's the placeholder for backstory on that side for me became Crystalwood, because we really get to spend time with what has happened with her since she's lost her father figure of Galt and gone over into the Bloodwood Assassins, and her training and indoctrination and complete drinking the Kool-Aid on that cult. And in the beginning of the book, it starts to shift. But we start to see the hideousness of the fanaticism being laid brick by brick in that character, and it in a way it made me wonder about some of the backstory of some of these other,
Well, yeah, you always wonder.
Like,
Okay,
why is she such a
all these
psychopath?
narrators? Who's reliable?
Yeah.
Like even even Galt. I like Galt a lot. I like that character a lot more through this book. But even Galt, you see he has these fond memories of his daughter, and then we see Crystalwood, and it's basically, I haven't seen my father in so long, I barely even know the man. So it's like, maybe they're both truthful to themselves, or maybe Galt's kidding himself. But I love that dichotomy.
Yeah, and I think it's true. I think I got to side with Crystalwood in this part. I don't think Galt. He's been out fighting the wars a long time, and I think in his head he's, it's a different story. That's such a great point, Josh.
Yeah, I enjoyed Crystalwood as well. That was really enveloped in her scenes. But, I think out of everything with this series so far, the one thing that Durfee excels in is just that, like, you question everything, right? And we get so many revelations here, and with each revelation, things just get broader and broader. Okay, who do I believe? Like what's going on? Which scriptures are even true? Are there any of them true? Is anything, like, you don't know you don't know who's going to be a chosen one still. You don't know who, you don't know what's going to happen.
Somebody in the chat, on our last chat, just said Durfee's a master of misdirection. And that is so true in this book. Because, we thought we knew who the 5 warrior angels are. Now, there's kind of conflicting ideas of who those 5 are going to be. I mean, honestly, one of them's dead now. So obviously Squirrek is not one of the warrior angels.
He's not the gladiator.
Yeah.
And
speaking of that, just a quick aside, I loved the way Durfee wrote that scene.
That was great.
Rolf killing Squirrek. He wrote it just so nonchalant. Yeah. And it was just like, you're expecting this big thing. And then it was just like, he used the same move that he moved on John Draylen, and Squirrek's dead.
but just like jaw dropped, and just for a few minutes, just like, what?
Yeah. But doesn't that work so well? Like, this guy has been in the wars for a decade plus.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you've done a lot of push-ups in your cell, and you've won some things in the arena. This guy's lived in the muck and war for a decade, and he's gonna go the quickest way from point A to B to get this over with and ended as expediently as possible. There's no showmanship at all. I thought it was just great. But I mean, it's so true. I called Durfee a carny when I was doing a wrap up on my channel, because it's like the chosen one's like a whack-a-mole, and it's every time you think you've got it, they're gone. And it's not only, you can't even stand in front of the whack-a-mole machine, it's on a carousel, so you have to wait for it to come around, because not only the chosen one, you got the 5 weapons, and then you're on a roller coaster waiting for that carousel to come around, because then there's the 5 jewels. One of them is in Crom's gob at the moment. Like, they're spread, they're all over the place. It's a casino that's out of control, man. It's a midway that's out of control, and you got this carny of a rider going, it doesn't matter if you're this tall, you can ride the ride, it's safe, and you're not going to get hurt. It's all held together with baling wire and spit. I don't trust it at all.
No, you're right, because so at one point, the revelation was, okay, it's Nail and Krista are the 2, and then, they're the decoys. Yeah. Or maybe that was misdirection. Maybe they're both, or maybe one of them.
Maybe one of them and not the other. But then it's late into book 2, and we get like the pirate girl with Crom and her brother that's been in Eris's army all along. I can't remember his name right. Mansalor.
Yeah.
Mansalor. And it's like, wait a minute, maybe it's them.
Yeah.
Like, is there a character at this point that I wouldn't put in the hopper that it could be them?
Yeah, that's just a talent I think he's shown in this series, is just leading you down one path and then just making you realize, no, we're really going here. Or maybe we're not going here. Maybe we were going another path, or maybe we're going to a new one. I mean, I've definitely enjoyed that aspect of it. It definitely adds a level of excitement to the reading experience when you You know, I know I posted a few times on Fireside, like, oh, Nail and Krista, you know, and like, oh, maybe not.
Yeah. And then I responded to that like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I thought, and then I had to respond again like, no, you're right. I think it's such a toss up, but it's so much fun. I mean, I think, you know, anytime you're reading a book like this, you try and put the puzzle pieces together. You know, I do. There's no way I can stop from doing it. And it's like, he's got so many plates on sticks going, and it's just a blast. It's fun because you don't see the end. However this wraps up, I'm going to go, I buy it because I can't see it and I can't see the end.
Yeah. I mean, totally. We don't know. And I like Brian's comment there. It's not an unreliable narrator. It's a laughing at you narrator. I picture I don't know if you've seen the GIF of Durfee where he's laughing. I can just picture that because that's so true. But yeah, it's like, who are the twins?
Yes!
Is it one of them? Is it both of them? Is it not? I mean, he's proven to be very good at that. And I like it because I'm reading another fantasy right now that it's the opposite. It's so predictable that I'm just totally bored by it. Yeah. And so it's nice to be surprised. You know, I talked about in the first book how he embraces the tropes, and I like that, but he's just twisting everything.
Yeah. He's having it's like that thing where it's like you love to watch someone have a good time, and I just really feel like he's having a blast. Like he's having the most fun. I just have no doubt about that when he's writing this. He's just chuckling his ass off.
So I want to talk about POV characters next, but I have an important question for both of you first.
Ooh.
Is Beer Mug dead?
I can't believe that. There's no way. There's no way. If he was to die, his death would need to be absolutely glorious or heart-wrenching. There's no way he's dead right now.
It was still pretty epic. I mean, he had some majorly epic scenes in this book.
Yeah. I refuse to believe Beer Mug is dead. I refuse.
I subscribe to the fantasy trope: no body, no death.
No body, no death. No body, no death. Yeah. I will refuse to, even if he doesn't show up again in book 3, I have a whole life in my head for Beer Mug. I refuse to believe it.
I just love how he just kept showing up. You know, they're crossing chasms and glaciers, and then like Beer Mug just happens to, oh, he's back, you know?
Oh, he's back. Yeah, it's the best. And the thing is, it's like, I don't care if it ruins my suspension of disbelief. I'm happy to see him every time.
Yeah.
And
I guess the other question, the other death is Roquemore death.
Beer Mug.
Say that again.
At the end of this, Beer Mug is going to be the chosen one.
There we go. John's going to go from Team Doki to Team Beer Mug.
Let me tell you, I got to be off Team Doki. I'm going to have to send Burt a shirt. I don't know if it's Nail. I'm pretty sure it's not Nail.
Yeah.
But as worthless as Doki was in that final battle, I got to be probably off Team Doki. He was pretty ineffective.
I hope it's not Nail because I find him the least compelling character.
Yeah. Yes.
So I hope that he is a decoy. That might actually add a layer of complexity to his character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the other death that I wonder if it's true is Roquemore, because we never saw a body there either. That one seems more likely, though.
And I thought the same thing. Like, we never, and these guys made it through the roller coaster Matterhorn of pain. So, I mean, could he have, but I don't know. I would buy him being out, because that just allows Murphy to laugh at us more, because he had most of the answers.
Yeah.
Yes.
He didn't tell anybody, and then he's dead.
Yeah. And then Nail, conveniently loses the pages that give the answers.
Yeah.
Of course.
I was shocked that I was shocked that Nail and Valdraken even survived that. That was a harrowing, just falling through the ice into the Glacier River. So I don't know. I could see Roquemore being gone.
I thought that was a really well written scene as well. and you know, a lot of times you can, you know, an author, you know, their background, you know, that Durfee lived in Alaska, and I think knows a lot about just that kind of landscape. And I thought he wrote it very well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There was a comment above about, I didn't pick up on this, but I was just wondering if you guys did. If you picked up on any of the Mormon or biblical message in the series that are in there. I mean, there were a couple times where characters talked about faith.
Yeah.
But I didn't see any. I didn't personally pick up on any of that. I don't know if we're just wondering if you guys did before.
I mean, like Usman said, you're questioning all of the, at this point, you're questioning all of the text, all of the stories of one faith versus the other. It's like, I don't think the truth has really been revealed at all yet. And I think the valet, who are actually called elves for a moment in this book, I think they have a lot more of the truth of what actually happened. And I hope it gets revealed in book 3. But other than that, I didn't pick up that much. I mean, other than, you know, Eros thinks he's a walking god, and
yeah. No, I don't know. I'm not very religious, and I'm not too familiar with those elements, so I couldn't tell you.
Heidi had a question. What do we think about the reveal of the king? I loved that. That was very awesome. Cool, because the ramifications rather of what that can bring if the king, if he does indeed get back to the continent and get rid of his ineffectual son, who's
going to happen. Everything. He gets back to the continent, and what's that kid's name? He's in the bin.
Joven.
Yeah. He's horrible.
He's the worst. And there are times I hate him worse than Eros on the other side. Like, he is just the worst.
Yeah, I don't know if I go that far, but yeah, he's just, I mean, he's an ineffectual nothing. Yeah, that has a lot of power, and that makes him very, very dangerous. But I meant to talk about the valet scene at the end of book 1. Hasn't paid off yet, so I'm interested where that's going, because we got that cool reveal with Lindoff realizing that. Yes. The big god they're worshiping is a valet. It's not a human. So, I mean, there's still that big puzzle piece to be revealed at some point in the last book.
But we do find out in this book, the 5 warrior angels on the other side that kind of come up from the underworld here towards the end, right, are like dark valet, or the dark elves or dark valets, or I really think this all goes. There's some kind of there's a story, the schism of these beings, and I think therein lies a lot of the truth of what really happened when the dark legions were vanquished and all that kind of stuff. And I'm telling you, the valet, for me, I think they're the key. I think they got the key to it all.
Yep, I agree.
I made a list of POV characters. I thought it'd be fun to talk about them. I have 2 lists. I have the old ones and the new ones. So if you just want to chime in on, whoever we want to talk about, let's talk about the old ones first. We have the returning ones. We have Galt, Tala, Nail, Ava, Lindholf. I put barely because he was only in 1 POV in the first book. And then John Draylen. I will say, I'll just start off of those 6 old POV characters. I was really enjoying Galt in this book. I liked him in the first book. We didn't get a whole lot of him, but now that he's kind of other side of the continent, he's not, around spades all the time and all those psychopaths. We're starting to see a different side of him. And I just chuckle at the way he just killed Squirrel like it was nothing. But
so great.
Yeah.
So great.
I do enjoy that character a bit. Were there any of the older POVs that stood out for you guys?
Yeah. Tala is still very intriguing for me. Her chapters are always interesting. Since the first book, it's just, watching her go through these events in the castle, and it's just a huge mystery element to it, and this trouble she's dealing with, like her constant lying. It's always, her chapters have always been intriguing. I really want to see what happens with her. Galt, yes, Galt in this one, badass. I like Galt a lot. especially in the Riven Rock quarry when they were thrown into the quarry, and you know that moment where he's just Delia gets taken by the other guys, and then he's just thinking to himself, you know, why bother with anything? Like, only the strong do what they want to do, and the weak let them do it. And in that moment, he just has sort of an epiphany, and he takes the guy's arm and just, you know, he basically says, you know, okay, I know I'm strong. So
yeah.
So he
Oh
does
my
that.
God.
That was so badass.
He sword whips that guy with a severed arm. It was metal. I mean, that was just crazy, right?
Rock and roll fantasy, right?
Right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think he's for me, like, I was not all in on Galt in book 1 because it's like, what's this weirdness about I see you as my daughter, and then, you know. But then I think he's on a real kind of arc of redemption. It's like he knows he was set up. He kind of already had questions, you know, like, these people are freaking nuts, Anna of Spades and all the rest. And it's like, now Anna of Spades and all the rest, and now they've set me up. I do really like. I feel like that's a redemption arc, and I'm really enjoying it. Tala, I had a real problem with in book 1 because it's like, what are all these? Shouldn't these be leading somewhere? All these little tasks they're giving her and things. And now that we've seen Crystalwood and her training it, I completely can buy into, well, they were just breaking this girl down. These tasks didn't have to mean anything. They're just trying to disassemble her psyche and break her down to nothing, so then they can start over and build her up the way they want her to be built up, right? So, I mean, that kind of solved some problems I had in book 1 in Tala in this one.
That's an interesting parallel. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, Lindhoff, I found very interesting. Like, this guy, like, I could see him going either way. Like,
yes, yeah,
he could go to the dark side or not. Like, I find him very, very interesting as a character.
I love the discussions on addiction through Lindhoff, and then the Bishop, who's one of the new POVs. I thought that was very well done, and I know Durfee works works like in a state prison working with prisoners, so I'm sure he's come across a lot of people who have dealt with addiction and things like that. I thought that was very, very interesting, especially, I mean, to segue into the new POVs, the Bishop, how he realizes that this Ogle, the Ogle bite, how it's horrible and it's bad, but he just can't resist it.
Yeah. There was a lot. Addiction happened over, like, the Bishop, Crystalwood, when she got that first taste of the red dragon blood from the tree. I mean, there were many moments of wanting to flee this amazingly brutal world to some other state of reality, from in one way or another, you know. Liz Hinn, the Bishop, like, it played out many times over and over.
Liz Hinn was badass in this one. She grinded my gears in the first book, but she definitely redeemed herself here. She's so badass.
I commented on the Discord. I said, I love Liz Hinn as a character, but if I met her in real life, she would drive me crazy. Yeah. I don't think I can handle her in real life, but on the page, she's an awesome character.
I got an award for best profanity so far, 2024 for me has to be Liz Hinn. Like, there's several times I laughed out loud. Like, that's awesome. I mean, I've got to work that in somewhere down the road. I got to write that down and remember it.
Well, let's talk about the new POVs, because I think there were some strong ones. Crystalwood, we've talked about a little bit. We had Stefan, we had Bishop, and then we had Manslaughter Allen was the new one at the very end. We got to see him. And let's just talk about Stefan. Were you all surprised by his death? Because I was.
Yeah.
That was the biggest shock to me in this book, and the most kind of heart-wrenching was his death, because I think that's like the first was that the first death we've gotten of like a kind of a main character you didn't see coming, like a main POV?
Yeah, we thought John Draylen was dead, but she wasn't. So I
Right.
think it is the first like
Yeah,
big
that's
death.
the first one, and you're like, for a moment I didn't think it would happen, and then it happens. And that's what I was saying about Durfee's descriptive kind of writing style, where like sometimes like with the travel scenes it can get a little tedious for me, but with that scene in particular, Stefan's death, the way he described all the emotions and the thoughts going within him, like, is this really it? And there's no like monologue, you know, before you die. There's nothing, like, it's, you don't know what's happening. You were in his head, like, is this really happening? And then it's just done, and he's done, he's gone.
And a lot of authors, I don't think, do that, you know, have you in the point of view until death.
Yeah.
I mean, that was very well done. And it hit hard for me because I think Stefan in many ways was one of the only like pure and good characters, you know.
I was going to say
he's the first one to go.
Yes, absolutely. Of the group that kind of started as youngsters, right? Started at book one as youngsters. Like, this is the guy who's had such a journey of loss and was such a just a great guy. Like, you know, we don't have to go back over the mistakes Nail has made, but it's like, this guy, such a journey of loss, just a solid guy. You're hoping for him to be one of the chosen, right? You're hoping him to end up with the crossbow because he's, you know, the crack shot with the bow. And then he rips the rug out from under you, not only taking him off the board, but when you take him off the board, who do you put on the board? Crom and the pirate girl coming in to take his place, right? It's like, all my hopes and dreams are in like the one guy that I kind of follow, you know, kind of would be all in on. He's taken off the board. And that moment of staying with him as he, you know, shuffles off his mortal coil, I found that over and over again. And this one, him staying in the emotionality of the characters more so than just the physical world of the events around them. You know, several times that happened, and I found it really, really effective.
And I think with Stefan, I think a lot of characters, I mean, it's an author technique, is for you to care about them, you have to see them cared for from other people, you know, other perspectives. Right. And I think with Stefan, you know, as vanilla as we say Nail is, you could tell that he had love for Stefan and he felt for Stefan and had a lot of respect for Stefan, and you could tell kind of all the companions as well. There was just a lot of respect for him. And yeah, that death, I'm sure it's not the last of characters that we're going to miss when they go. Can't
be, because it's got to narrow down. But he's the only one that's like was truly affected by the lives he took, right? Like truly took a toll on his humanity. Loved and lost to the point where he's just carving his lost love's name in trees and his bow and stones as he goes on his journey because he doesn't want her to leave the world. Like, there's so many moments of him that it's like, yeah, I could see that. And then he's just ripped away, and here comes Crom and I can't remember her name, but you know, the pirate girl.
Andralen's sister. Yeah, I don't remember her name either. The bishop died as well. And he went out like a champ.
He went out,
That was pretty cool. That was one of those like, well done, bishop. I mean, way to go out there. I mean, he wasn't, even though he was the bishop and the religious figure, I think Stefan was more pure of heart, and especially as we see the bishop descend into that addiction. But even so, that was a great way, I think, for that character to end that arc.
Yeah.
So,
and I love that he paid off, right? He drops that little breadcrumb early on about, oh, well, you know, there's a hierarchy to the bishops, and you get, you know, if you get all the way up, you get the special dispensation of the necklace or whatever it is. And then it comes back into play at the end when the bishop plays that card, and it's like, oh man, fair play to you, Durfee, to pay that off. That's a nice, that's a great callback.
Yeah. Heidi had put something in the chat earlier to talk about the canal battle. an homage to the last battle in Winter King, which I, of course, picked up on. I don't know if you guys have read that, but
Yes.
yeah, I kind of suspected that. I never saw anybody say it specifically, but I was thinking that as well. I thought that was very well done. I'm not always good at visualizing things, and I thought several parts of that I was really able to see kind of what was going on with the rising tide and all of that. I thought he wrote that scene very, very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just absolute carnage. Like
Yeah.
chaos ensues. That was awesome.
Yeah, Heidi actually reached out to me earlier today and said, look up the video of Brian Lee Durfee there at Mont Saint Michel as he was doing research to write the book. And I had friends that had gone before and sent me pictures of when the tide is in and when the tide is out, right? And it's exactly what I pictured. It's so otherworldly. I mean, they're just places that exist that are a fantasy world, and that is one of those spots. A lot of the forests that you see in John Borman's Excalibur are the same for me. It's like I'm watching that going, that's everything you expect from a fantasy world. But oh my God, that final battle with the water bugs skittering around and the characters you really care about.
I was kind of
in their helmet,
I was kind of waiting for that scene because we didn't really get, we got skirmishes, we got one-on-one in the first book, and I was waiting. I hoped we wouldn't have to wait till the last book for a big battle, and I thought he did very well with it.
What did you think when the mermaids and the shark showed up?
Love it, man.
Like if it wasn't.
The mermaids are horrifying, and I'm here for it.
They are absolutely horrifying. And it's like, if this isn't enough, like they're all going to sacrifice themselves so the tide rolls in because it's the one shot they have. And then we just have like sharks with frickin' lasers on their heads. Let's throw that in there. And then vicious soul-sucking mermaid. Like, it's like, are you kidding? This is like Brian Lee Durfee is like epic fantasy on mescaline. I swear, he's just like laughing.
Yeah, and then we got giant serpents out of nowhere just come in,
Then a Leviathan shows up at the end, just like, oh my God, he just was throwing it all out there at the end. I loved it. I cannot wait to see the epic battle everyone tells me comes in book 3 after reading the final battle in this one. I was just sad about my man Doki, man. He didn't fare well. He didn't fare well.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be the chosen one. Maybe it'll be Luke.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Let's see. I wrote down a couple other things. So one thing that's been intriguing me with this series most, I started thinking about it about halfway through the book, is the non-POV characters, because we do have a big cast of point of view characters. The non-POV characters, to me, I find fascinating because I don't know anything about their motivations. Like, to me, this may be an unpopular opinion. My favorite character is Saita. And I think she's I think she's on the side of evil, but she's just so damn compelling. Like, was her whole thing, was she playing Stefan the whole time? Or was there a glimmer of something between them? With what, it seems like she's the puppet master with Tala back at the castle. Where is she leading for that? Is she leading it to a place of good or bad? I have no idea. And every time that character's on the page, I find her so compelling.
Yeah.
Because I don't know and I wrote down a quote. I forget who said it, but it was about her. It said, Vale and Bloodwood, a combination of the two most devious species there are. So maybe I'm setting myself up for a fall, like she's the big bad in this series or something, but I love that character. That character I find the most compelling in the whole series right now.
Yeah, well, she's the one that I am the most conflicted with. I don't know what her motivations are. Is she purely evil on the evil side, or like what is she like? Like, she's pulling all these strings, setting up all these things for people, like for these kids, and I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, I love it. I love not knowing,
Mhm.
especially because, we've been with Durfee for almost 2,000 pages now.
Yeah.
I think we get a lot about what he's all about, and it is this misdirection, this, I'm going to lead you here and not lead you there, or maybe I am. Who knows what's going on? Like John said, he's laughing at us. So I am just very curious where her arc is going to go, because for me, she was the most compelling character on the page, hands down, in this book for me.
I do think that her and her sister were the two Bloodwood assassins, right?
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that at this
Yeah.
point. She's been the assassin in the castle that's been leading Tala astray.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah.
And
So
at this point, I think that her sister is the one that was killed by
Is the one that was
Rayborn.
killed,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? So I'm pretty sure she's just following orders and doing the bidding of the master assassin that's been training Crystalwood and all of them.
Yeah.
But I do think there's like that she's got that glimmer of humanity. I do think she felt something for Stefan, but I do think she was completely using him and leading him along.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword. I don't think she's completely lost her entire soul, but she is a good soldier, and she is following orders, and it's going to lead nowhere good. That's what I think.
Yeah. And going back to what Josh said, that quote about her being a valet and a Bloodwood, the two most dangerous things, maybe she's using her Bloodwood abilities, but she's planning something for her valet heritage, something in that regard. It might not be for Dougal. You don't know. Because we got that older race of valets now, right?
Yeah.
Or the evil one, the demon one. I forgot what it's called, Valsor or something.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The Dark Elves.
who knows what her motivations are?
And I love that. And sometimes I know authors, I saw an interview with Steven Erickson talking about, someone asked him why he made Animander Rake never have a point of view passage. And he said he wanted to make him more mysterious because of that. So I know Durfee's doing that with Saita. I'll be curious to see, because I'm sure we'll get new point of view characters in the last book, if she ends up being one of them or not. But I'm
that'd be
definitely
interesting.
intrigued by her character. And I think, going back, Usman, with what you talked about with Tala early on in the stream, wondering where all of that manipulation of her, like, where's that going and how does this play out? Because at one point she even says, like, we have big plans for you. So is Tala the one that's the warrior angel that John Draylen thinks that she is? Is it going to be Tala somehow? I mean, so many questions.
It could be. It could be. I do like watching all the Bloodwood assassins. I find really fascinating, and you've got two kind of accomplished ones in Spiderwood and Saita, and then you've got the two youngins that are just starting to spread their wings. But I see. I think Spiderwood, same thing. Spiderwood, I don't think has Ava Shea's best in mind. I think he's leading her to somewhere just as dark. I think Dougal's got his clutches in the older assassins, and they are good soldiers, and it's going to go nowhere good.
Yeah.
And poor Ava, I don't think anybody has her best interest.
Yeah, she needs a spa day. Something good has to come for Ava.
Maybe that'll be Nail's redemption arc, because he'll save Ava.
He should.
Yeah.
So Saita's my favorite character. Who is your favorite characters?
I have to think about it. You go ahead, John.
Of the new POVs?
No, just in general. Because
just
right
in
now,
general?
Saita's like my favorite character in the series.
Wow. I mean, I love me some Liz Hinn. I because she's like that everyman, and at the same time just a complete badass, and just has the best profanity. I think the character arc that I find most intriguing would be Crystalwood.
Yeah. You know, and one thing about her I found interesting is in her point of view character chapters, how, you know, initially she was like, I'm Crystalwood, but sometimes she calls herself Krista.
Mm-hmm.
So like that level of humanity that's pre-Bloodwood is still there.
It's still there. And she hasn't drunk the Kool-Aid, I don't think. That she there's a glimmer, I think, that she could pull through this. Now, I think her little buddy that's floating in the boat behind her, I can't remember his name, you know, after the king takes her out of the prison and is taking her. There's no hope for that guy. Yeah. But I see there could be hope for her. I think she could be saved. But wow, what a tragic journey if she was separated from family and taken to this horrible kingdom where she's misused and abused, and then given off to this fanatic Dougal to be trained as an assassin, all the while just being a red herring so the true chosen one could be running free over here. Like, what a tragic trail she's had to blaze. I just want to see where this ends up, right?
I really want to see her and Galt, their meeting after how many years? 10 years? Something like that?
Yeah. It's been at least that. And he doesn't know she's fallen under the clutches of Dougal.
Yep. No, Crystalwood for sure was one of the most compelling characters for me. I enjoyed all her chapters, but I gravitate to the more, traumatized characters. So, like, I like Galt. He's badass. You know, he's been through some stuff. Ava, I enjoyed reading about Ava's chapters as you know, horrific as they were. Who was the other one that I'm skipping when we talk about traumatized characters? John
Draylen, physically disfigured.
That's right. There are a lot of characters that I gravitate towards, but if I'm being honest with myself, as mid as he is, I still like Nail. The only reason I like Nail, I relate so much with him. I see so much of myself in Nail that I can't help it. So I hope, man, please, I hope Nail redeems himself, gets a little more interesting.
I hope that what happens with Nail in the third book is what happened for me in Philip Chase's trilogy, in that I didn't really like his main character, Dayraven, in the first two books. A lot of people didn't like him first book and then liked him. I still didn't like him, but by the third book, I loved the character. And I'm hoping that maybe there's going to be a light switch moments with Nail. I think it could be there if we see who he is, again, from an outside POV. Because, you know, it seems like everybody he's with all the time just kind of shits on him. So he just shits on himself, and it's just, that just adds to kind of the layer of not seeing him as heroic or whatever. But maybe he'll get a redemption arc and he'll save Ava Shea. And
you know, the close runner up for me is Lindhoff, because that Shakespearean level tragic character there, you know, like just disfigured and not taken seriously, and yet he knows a lot of what is going on. Like, as far as answers go, like he's got quite a bit of them. I don't know what he's going to do with them. It could be really bad.
I got a theory about Lindhoff. All right, this has been plaguing me. I gotta say it here.
Hit me.
With Lindhoff, this might be incredibly far-fetched. Even I'm totally unsure. Take this with a huge grain of salt. But I think there's a small chance that Lindhoff may be a valet. Because here's the thing, he's deformed, but his ears are very deformed too. And I don't know, just the way his mother treated him, the way that Seta kind of rubbed his ears at the end there. I don't know.
I mean, that's a good theory.
What if he is some type of half-breed or something? You know, we haven't seen that.
Well, I don't
know. That's just a wild theory.
I'm reading too many series at once. There is a series that I know that the species can't reproduce. I don't know if that's in this one or not.
No, it's remember Seta says something about that to Stefan about we're not supposed to be able to, or something. Like, I remember a conversation that was broached or brought up, I think.
So maybe you're not supposed to be able to, but you can, maybe, or
that could be another breadcrumb that pays off. That's an interesting theory, man.
I think he definitely has a bigger part to play because he was the big reveal in the first book.
Yeah.
He's been doing a lot of sneaky behind the scenes in the second book. He's also one of the characters that's currently, dealing with some addiction. So maybe there's the potential of some sort of arc there as well. Or maybe he'll get killed in the first chapter. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nail and hammer is open an Airbnb at the end. Oh man.
Very good. That's Legends and Lattes part 3.
Part 3.
I agree with this, and I think this can segue to, do you have any predictions, expectations going into the last book?
I'm with John right there.
I was all Team Duke. I was all Team Dookie after the end of book 1. And to me, that was such perfect foreshadowing of him kind of showing you, ooh, it could be everyone. Look at this hand over here. Don't see this hand over here. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. Yeah, it's like he's such a huckster, man. I don't know what to expect, but I definitely want to read it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Things are starting to converge. But
they're all coming to the same place, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I have no idea how all of these things are going to come together.
Yeah.
And I love that. Because a lot of times at the end of a book, too, I feel like you have an idea. I have no freaking idea.
I have no clue. I have absolutely no clue. But all the weapons are in play now, right? We've got all the weapons are in play.
Yeah.
All the angel stones are in play. Everyone's coming to kind of the same area, the same location. So, I mean, it is kind of coming down to that shoot like I wanted. But I just thought we would know by now at least one or maybe two of the chosen, of the chosen 5. But it's like he is just...
Well, we thought we had our 5, and then it was 4.
Yeah.
And then we have 5 on the other side. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a mixture. Maybe it's some other people.
Yeah. No, there's going to be 5. Just one's not Squaric,
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I wouldn't even entertain.
It could be now. Galt could be one of the chosen at this point because he kicked some ass in the arena.
Roquemore said something in the first book. It was Roquemore or Hawkwood in the first book said something. I think it was Roquemore said that. Mentioned him by name and said he has a part to play here.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps.
Yeah, it could be him. It could be him. It could be Lindhoff.
Like they were referencing him as the gladiator. So many references, to people just kind of offhanded sometimes. And you're like, oh, what could it be?
Right. Because Lindhoff is being trained as a thief.
Yep.
And now Tala's being trained as an assassin. Like these title tropes are getting thrown onto so many people, I don't know what he has in mind, but I think it's going to be fun because I think he himself is having a great time.
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to see how it wraps up, and I don't even know what to expect. So we'll see.
Well, just look what Heidi says here.
Yeah, Heidi's in the minority, at least in the chat. She didn't like the last book as much, but
everyone else does or likes it the best.
Everybody else does. It just seems like there's a lot of positives. Yeah.
He's like, it's a hot mess.
That's a good point there, Michael. Looking back at the discussions, it will be interesting. I think even from book 1 to book 2, how our thoughts about certain characters change.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Completely. Yes, absolutely. And then new characters that pop up in book 2 that kind of become your favorites in like that in no time, So I see again, growth and confidence so much in his artist journey from book 1 to 2, and I have no idea what to expect from book 3. But this is why my question kind of plagues me of, is he writing on anything else? Like I would hate to see his journey stop.
He did mention, I watched his video today.
I did too, but I didn't catch.
But he did say at one point how he works at the prison full time and he writes full time.
Okay,
and that was present tense, so I think he's still writing. I know at one point he talked about a horror novel, which I've looked for that.
I've looked for it. I can't find it anywhere. So,
Brian had to cancel his line of Doki merch.
No, wait for book 3. Well, Brian knows. Brian's read this, so he knows. We could be all in. We could be all in on Doki merch. You think about we got the itchy bunghole shirt. We got the helmet jammed on your head hoodie. I mean, there's so much potential here.
Yeah, Durfee can get a whole bunch of Doki merch. I love it. All right. Well,
I would love to. Someone's asking if we're going to do an interview with Durfee, and it's like, man, I think you know him best, Josh. Is there?
I'll try to reach out and see if he wants to join us on the last book discussion. Yeah, definitely love to chat with him because he's he's written a series we're really, really enjoying. So
yeah,
it would be great to ask him about like a lot of his, motivations behind, a lot of his ideas behind the misdirection, his influences, those kinds of things. So we'll see if we can get him on board. It'd be a lot of fun. But if not, everybody in the chat, thank you for hanging out tonight. We will be back in about a month, probably sometime early to mid-April, and we'll be talking about The Lonesome Crown, Book 3 in Brian Lee Durfee's 5 Warrior Angels trilogy, which, as you know, is published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. I want to thank Usman from Bards and Books, John from Talking Story. If you don't already subscribe to their channels, the links are already in the description below. Go check them out, and thank you for hanging out. If you're watching the replay, drop us a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this book series. Just no spoilers for book 3. But again, John and Usman, I want to thank you both.
Yeah.
And
I want to thank Josh. I want to thank you and Usman and Burt and Matt as well, because you guys have made this series even more fun than it would have been for me. So absolutely, thank you so much.
Yeah, ditto. Thank you guys as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, take care, everybody in the chat, and we'll see you sometime next month to talk about The Lonesome Crown.